Добър вечер.
Mr. President, thank you very much for agreeing to do this interview. It's a pleasure to be here in Damascus.
You're most welcome in Syria.
Let me ask you, first of all, you know, there's been accusation by the US and the Europeans about the use of chemical weapons, and there was an attack after that. What is your response to that? Was there a chemical attack? Were you responsible for that?
First of all, we don't have any chemical arsenal since we gave it up in 2013. And the International Agency for Chemical Weapons made investigations about this, and it's clear or documented that we don't have. Second, even if we have it, we wouldn't use it for many different reasons. But let's put these two points aside. Let's presume that this army has chemical weapons and it's in the middle of the war. Where should it be used? At the end of the battle? They should use it somewhere in the middle, or where the terrorists made advancement, not where the army finished the battle and the terrorists gave up and said, we are ready to leave the area, and the army is controlling fully that area. So the Western narrative started after the victory of the Syrian army, not before. When we finished the war, they said they used chemical weapons. Second, use mass destruction armaments in a crammed area with population, like Duma, the supposed area. It's called Duma. And they talk about 45 victims. When you use mass destruction in such an area, you should have hundreds or maybe thousands of victims in one time. Third, why all the chemical weapons, the presumed or supposed chemical weapons, only kill children and women? They don't kill militants. If you look at the videos, it's completely fake. I mean, when you have chemical weapons, how could the doctors and nurses be safe dealing with the chemical atmosphere without any protective clothes, without anything, just throwing water at the victims, and the victim became okay just because you washed them with water? So it's a farce, it's a play, it's very primitive play just to attack the Syrian army. Because why? That's the most important part, that when the terrorists lost, the US and France and UK and their other allies who wants to destabilize Syria, they lost one of their main cards. And that's why they had to attack the Syrian army, just to raise the moral of the terrorists and to prevent the Syrian army from liberating more areas in Syria.
But are you saying that there was an incident of chemical attack and somebody else is responsible, or that there was nothing there?
That's the question, because I mean the side who said allegedly that there was a chemical attack, he had to prove that there was an attack. We have two scenarios. Either the terrorists had chemical weapons and they used it intentionally, or maybe there was explosions or something, or there was no attack at all, because all the investigations, Duma, people say, we didn't have any chemical attack. We didn't see any chemical gas or didn't smell and so on. So we don't have any indications about what happened. The Western narrative is about that. That question should be directed to the Western officials who said there was attack. We should ask them, where's your concrete evidence about what happened? They only talk about reports. Well, reports could be allegations, videos by the white helmets funded by the British Foreign Office, and so on.
President Trump, in a tweet, used a very strong expression. He said, "Animal Assad." You remember that?
Yeah.
What's your response to that?
Actually, when you're in that position, I mean, president of a country, you have, first of all, to represent the moral of your people before representing your own moral. You are representing your country. The question, is this language represent the American culture, That's the question. This is very bad, and I don't think so. I don't think there's community in the world has such a language. Second, the good thing about Trump that he expresses himself in a very transparent way, which is very good in that regard. Personally, I don't care because I deal with the situation as a politician, as president. So it doesn't matter for me personally. What's matter, what something would affect me, would affect my country, our war, the terrorists, and the atmosphere that we're living in.
He said mission accomplished in Syria. How do you feel about that?
I think maybe the only mission accomplished when they helped ISIS escape from Makkah, when they helped them, and it was proven by video, and under the cover, the leaders of ISIS escaping Raqqa, going toward Deir ez-Zor just to fight the Syrian army. The other mission accomplished where they attacked the Syrian army at the end of 2016 in the area of Deir ez-Zor when ISIS was surrounding Deir ez-Zor and the only force was the Syrian army. I mean, the only force to defend that city from ISIS was the Syrian army, and because of the American and of course their allies attack, Deir ez-Zor was on the brink of falling in the hand of ISIS. So this is the only mission that's accomplished. If he's talking about destroying Syria, of course this is another mission accomplished. While if you talk about fighting terrorism, we all know very clearly that the only mission the United States have been doing in Syria is to support the terrorists regardless of their names, of the name of their factions.
How about Turkey now? Turkey did an intrusion, an invasion of part of your country. You used to have a pretty good relationship with President Erdogan. How is that relationship now after that intrusion?
Now let's say that this is aggression. This is occupation. Any single Turkish soldier on the Syrian soil represents occupation. That doesn't mean the Turkish people are our enemies. A few days ago only we had a political delegation coming from Turkey. We have to distinguish between the Turks in general and Erdogan. Erdogan is Muslim Brotherhood. Maybe he is not organized, but his affiliation is toward that ideology, this dark ideology. I call it dark ideology. And for him, because like the West, when the terrorists lost the control of different areas, and actually they couldn't implement the agenda of Turkey or the West or Qatar or Saudi Arabia, somebody has to interfere. This is where the West interfered through the recent attacks on Syria, and this is where Erdogan assigned by the West, mainly the United States, to go and interfere, to go and make the situation complicated again, because without that interference, the situation would be solved much faster. So it's not about personal relation. The core issue of the Muslim Brotherhood anywhere in the world is to use Islam in order to take control of the government in your country and to create multi-government having this kind of relation, like network of Muslim Brotherhood around the world.
In an election campaign rally, he said, I think 2 days ago, that he's going to do another intrusion into Syria. Yeah. How are you going to respond to that if it happens?
Actually, since the very beginning of the war, Erdogan supported the terrorists. But at that time, he could hide behind the word protecting the Syrian people, supporting the Syrian people, supporting the refugees. We are against the killing, and so on. He was able to appear as the humanitarian president, let's say. Now, because of these circumstances, he has to take off the mask and to appear as aggressor. And this is the good thing. So there's no big difference between the Turkish head of regime, Erdogan, sending his troops to Syria and supporting the terrorists. This is his proxy. So we've been fighting 7 years, his army. So the difference actually between now and then is the appearance. The core is the same. That time we couldn't talk about occupation, we could talk about supporting terrorists, but this time we could talk about occupation, which is about violating the international law, and this could be the good part of him announcing this.
But how can you respond to that?
First of all, we are fighting the terrorists, and I said the terrorists for us is his army. They are the American army, the Saudi army. Forget about the different factions and who's going to finance those factions. At the end, they work for one agenda, and those different players obey one master, the American master. Erdogan is not implementing his own agenda, only he's implementing the American. The same for the other country in this world. So first of all, you have to fight the terrorists. Second, when you take control of more areas, you have to fight any aggressor, any army, Turkish, French, whoever. They are enemies. As long as they came to Syria illegally, they are our enemies.